Hey everybody, this is Courtney Rowland and Mark Passwaters here for the Aggie Yell F Word podcast. But instead of football tonight, we are talking all about March Madness and basketball. Mark, I know you've got to hurry up tonight because you are packing to head to the A&M game.
Yes.
So the guys made it this year. So that's a success. But what do you think about the seed that they're in? I know Buzz had some words for it.
Well, I had to delete a few tweets because the word screwed kept on coming up. And, I'm in my professional capacity. I'm not supposed to say the word screwed as much as I was saying the word screwed, uh, which was a lot because they got screwed. Um, and I think that a lot of this is just petty crap going back to last year when Buzz called them out and dragged them rightfully when A&M didn't make the tournament. Um, so I think that this was their little opportunity to get payback. They couldn't keep A&M out of the tournament, but they could seed them low, and that's what they did. And I mean, a 7th seed is just outrageous. I mean, 0.3% of people anticipated A&M getting a 7 seed. I mean, you would think that you would have a better chance of walking down the street and getting hit by a meteor than A&M ending up as a 7. But that's where we are. So, they've got to deal with that. They've got to deal with a hot Penn State team, and then, hopefully they'll go toe to toe with Texas.
That would definitely be fun. Okay, so you said they. Are we talking about the committee or who is
Yeah.
at hand here? Like, why Texas A&M? Why are they trying to make an example out of Texas A&M?
Oh, it's unquestionably the selection committee. I should have been more precise when I said that. It's the same bunch of guys that and gals that were there last year, and they didn't like being called out. They didn't like the fact that A&M, not only got called them out, that Buzz called them out the way that he did, had factual data to support it, but then A&M goes on a run in the NIT to validate the fact that they should have been in the tournament. They really felt like they were being made to look embarrassed by
Mhm.
A&M. So they figured, hey, here's a great opportunity at payback. They'll never admit it. They'll claim that A&M had a lousy non-conference schedule. They had 2 quad 4 losses in December and all that stuff. There have been maybe 5 teams better than Texas A&M since the start of 2023. The
Mhm.
records indicated they were second in the SEC. They beat the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They came in second in the SEC tournament. Everything that is in A&M's resume from the start of 2023 is not just good, it's really good. And yet they end up as a 7th seed. So there's no real rational explanation except for the fact that they being the committee, did not like A&M's reaction to being left out last year. That they were supposed to be just good boys and go in the corner and go off and play in your little NIT. But when they sat there and made an issue of it, any opportunity that they had to get payback, they would. And, lo and behold, it happened 365 days later.
And no one likes to have their ego hit, clearly. So, like you were saying, perhaps that's what they were doing there. But also, do you think there's anything behind it? I mean, money talks, right?
Right.
So, do you think that they thought that a game A&M versus Texas in the second round would produce more money, or do you think that has anything to do with anything?
Not in Des Moines. Uh, the money for ratings essentially, or for the tournament, is a sunk cost. It's they've already paid it out to the NCAA. Now, would CBS like it? Yeah, I'm sure that CBS will. If it's A&M in Texas, they'll pump that very hard.
Mhm.
They'll make a big deal out of it and everything else. And I don't know if it'll end up on TNT or TBS or True TV, but I got to think that if it's it would be Saturday night, I got to think CBS would want to grab that. And if it's not the national game, then I don't know what would be. So I think that CBS is delighted with it. I don't know what the NCAA's motivation would be unless they're trying to make CBS happy. Outside of that, I mean, the whole bracket that A&M is in is trash. especially when you consider that the Final Four is going to be in Houston. And who are the three candidates from the state of Texas that are most likely to make it to the Final Four? A&M, Texas, and Houston. And, Baylor and TCU are also on the periphery. But three of the five, A&M, Texas, Houston, are in the same bracket. So
Mm-hmm.
only one of them has a chance to basically have a home game in the Final Four. And that's just, you know, I'm sure that CBS wasn't real thrilled with that. And I'm very sure that NRG Stadium and the city of Houston were absolutely livid when that bracket came out, because they were thinking, oh man, we got free money here with A&M and Houston and Texas and Baylor and TCU. And then to have a situation where two of them are going to be eliminated automatically, they've got to be thinking like A&M, they got the shaft.
Yeah. I mean, of course, all the players and, all the players say, like, oh, we're not paying attention to that, et cetera, et cetera. We're just so happy we got in this year, which I'm sure that they are. But deep down, there's got to be a chip deep in their shoulder against the committee to show that they are something, to show that they belong. Um, Based off of what the players said and what Coach Buzz Williams said, how do you feel this team is going into this tournament? Do you think with a chip on their shoulder?
I think the best description I could give actually wasn't verbal. It was a tell when the announcement was made, and Buzz went like this. You could tell that he was just like, yep, that was all the motivation we needed right there. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the committee lit them up last year and they ended up going all the way to Madison Square Garden and losing in the last second of the NIT. The committee gets on them again. You think that guys like Wade Taylor and Manny Obaseki and Henry Coleman and Boots Reffert, who were there last year, aren't sitting there going, wait a minute, they're doing it. They did it again. Yeah, I mean, that has to just absolutely rile them up to no end. I mean, it would me, and I'm just the schmo sitting in the stands. So, I've got to think that he was sitting there going, well, if we needed any motivation, we just got it.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like any A&M team that you and I have ever covered, when they are ranked low, when the media discounts them, they seem to do so much better. So this could be good for the Aggies, like you were saying. It is interesting to me. Doesn't it, like, I was listening to several different things and reading up on the brackets and everything like that. Isn't Xavier in a higher seed than A&M, yet they have a worse record than A&M, and yet there's teams
Yeah.
in the SEC that A&M is with that are all ranked in the top,
Oh yeah.
not like Xavier. So, like, how do they? I don't understand. How does the committee come up with this ranking, and how do they come up with the seeds?
Well, at this point, I think they take shots at Everclear. They're just like, hey, let's see where stuff goes. Uh, you know, but Xavier was had a good season. They were strong in their conference, and they got a lot of props for that. So they're a 3. Whatever. But teams like Missouri, A&M beat Missouri at Reed. They beat Missouri at Missouri. They advanced farther in the SEC tournament than Missouri. They had a better net than Missouri, and Missouri's ranked higher than them. That makes no sense. A&M beat Tennessee. Tennessee has lost, what, 7 of 10 or 6 of 10 or something like that. And they're just, people are absolutely enamored with them. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. They haven't been a good team in 6 weeks. They really hit their peak when they came to Reed and they got beat, and they've been downhill from there. It just makes no sense. I mean, Kentucky is ahead of A&M. That's total hype. They beat the Aggies, yes, but the Aggies had a better record. They advanced farther in the SEC tournament. Again, better net, this, that, and the other. And, there they are. I mean, it's just, there's no other way to put it except it's just extreme disrespect.
Yeah, they should probably take it personally. At least I know I did, and I'm not even playing.
Well, I mean, I was sitting there, I had my phone out and I had the tickets up for Orlando, thinking they were going there, and then they pop out a 7 seed in Des Moines, and I was just like, "What? How is this even possible?"
So you're flying to Des Moines tomorrow?
I am flying to Des Moines tomorrow, but I'm not flying specifically just to Des Moines. I'm flying to St. Louis, and then I'm flying to Des Moines.
Because there's probably no direct flights.
Exactly. Nobody's flying to Des Moines directly. It's going to be 13 degrees on Thursday. I'm so excited.
Oh, wow. Well, good luck with that. Um, so let's kind of backtrack a little bit. So we talked about how, A&M has done well against some top ranked teams. You were there. I saw you. I was there with my family when A&M at home beat Alabama.
Yeah.
What happened in the SEC championship game?
A few things. One, I think A&M wore down. Um, one thing
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah.
that Alabama has that most programs don't is they're just so deep, and they have a more established rotation of very, very good players. A&M has their 7 or 8 guys, but there can also be a significant drop off in scoring when you put guys like Taylor or Boots or Marble or Coleman on the bench. So, A&M got into foul trouble. Alabama went on a run. Brandon Miller was shooting much better than he did the other at at Reed. But I think the big thing was that they figured out how to limit Wade Taylor.
Mm.
And they keyed on him very well, I might add. Uh, putting Clowney out on him, just being very physical with him, denying him the ball because they know as Taylor goes, so goes the offense. And they shut him out in the first half. He didn't get anything going until really the latter part of the game. And I think that was what they did not do at Reed. um, I think that A&M did a very good job getting in the lane, drawing fouls. The guards played very well in the win. They didn't play well on Sunday, but Alabama also adapted. And that's a lot of credit to Nate Oates and a lot of credit to the talent that they have on that team. That's why they're the number 1 seed in the country. There are very few teams that could do what they did in the country, just in terms of guys that are big, really fast, really athletic, that can limit guys like Taylor and Radford getting clean looks or getting to the basket. So, the big guys had to pick up the slack, and they played all right, but they couldn't do it. And I'm sure that everybody out there is like, okay, the word is out on how to beat A&M. Okay, great. Now go, you guys go do it yourself, because there aren't very many people that have the personnel to do it.
Okay, so and you don't have to answer this, but what are your thoughts on the whole Miller situation? I know I've received some messages from people about like fans, Alabama fans wearing shirts like saying "killing our way through the SEC in 23." I don't know if you
Mhm.
see that right there. The whole situation and how it's being handled. What are your thoughts on it all?
Talent remains king,
Hmm.
and I hate it because he's an incredible player, but in my mind, he brought a gun at the request of the shooter to a crime scene that became a murder scene. A young woman is dead. A little boy is going to grow up without his mom. And the way Alabama handled it, from Oates saying, "Oh, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time," to, "Oh, well, we've looked at everything and we don't see a reason he shouldn't be playing." That's just the worst of college sports. That's the worst representation that you can have with the SEC. I mean, it's bad enough that you got situations, even A&M hired a guy that was screwing around on his wife and wrecked his motorcycle. That was 10 years ago, but people remember what Bobby Petrino did. People remember what Hugh Freeze did at Ole Miss, and that was 5 years ago. You know, Brandon Miller was involved in a murder 2 months ago, and nothing's happening? I mean, he didn't pull the trigger. He wasn't there when the crime itself was committed, but he brought the murder weapon. There are texts saying, "You bring me my stick." And Alabama's like, "We don't see a problem." The prosecutor saying, "We don't see a problem." There's nothing we can charge him with. The whole thing sickens me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I I would I've got to wonder what would happen if the situation happened in Texas, where the laws are a little bit different. But what would happen if it happened in College Station? What would happen if it happened in Austin? I mean, I would hope that the programs would have the gumption to sit there and say, yeah, this is the SEC player of the year, but there are bigger things than college basketball. And honestly, you know, Alabama's getting dragged for this, and Alabama should be dragged for it. They should be dragged long and loud. But I just don't have the confidence that anybody else put in that situation wouldn't make the same decision, because the consequences that they face are so minimal. If there
Mm-hmm.
are any, I mean, what does Alabama care if I say something about it, or Clay Travis says something about it, or you say something about it? You know, they don't care. They're the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. We can say all we want. Is it going to change anything? No.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, and that gets me stewing every single time I see them play. But God bless each and every one of them involved. Who knows what's going on? But I do hope that the right or I just hope that it all works out for the best, because
Yeah.
God bless that kid that doesn't have a mother anymore, and just the whole situation.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's mind-boggling. What were they doing there to begin with? And from what the situation was, the way it's been described by prosecutors, there was no reason to go shoot somebody. They had an argument over a parking space. So what? Grow up.
yeah.
And because there's so much immaturity, or there's so much, these guys get coddled so much through their lives, that they sit there and they think, it's not a big, I can do whatever I want. This so and so took my parking space, so I'm gonna shoot him. What logic is that? That's terrible.
So who know? Only those people there know exactly what happened that
Right.
night.
Absolutely.
But Brandon Miller sure has been able to block the noise very well.
Hmm.
Uh, what are your thoughts on that, and how he's able to do that, and Alabama as a whole in general able to do that?
I think there's an element of what they're doing that is comparable to what A&M is doing, in that they are making a situation where it's them against the world. A&M sitting
Mhm.
here saying, okay, the powers that be hate us. The powers that be being the the selection committee. The SEC won't stand up for us. The national media doesn't care. They want to see us lose. So let's go do this for each other. Alabama, on the other hand, knows everybody hates their guts. I mean, it's not even a question. Who likes Alabama right now? Alabama and a bunch of T-shirt fans. The media hates them. Uh, all the SEC teams hate them. Everybody else that watches college basketball for 30 seconds hates them. So they're on their own island. And if they're going to do things, they've got to rely on one another, and because nobody else is going to come to their aid. So, if you're a coach, and you're a good coach, and you know how to motivate your players, you use that to your advantage. And again, it's sickening to say that you're using a capital on a first degree murder charge as motivation, but that's where we are.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It just boggles my mind, the whole thing. Um, Getting back to basketball, and actual basketball, and not all the events around it. Who, if you had to say today, who would you say would be in the Final Four?
Ooh,
And I
That's a
know that's a hard question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that, with U of H, they've got to be healthy. Their star guard is hurt. If he's not 100%, then Texas or A&M can come out of that bracket.
Mhm.
I like Purdue. Purdue's got a solid team top to bottom. Uh, it's very difficult to argue against Alabama after seeing them. Uh, they, the A&M took it to them. Physically, emotionally. They got all the breaks. They hit all the shots. You know, in and then 8 days later, they turn around and just absolutely stuck it to the Aggies. That shows you're not only good, you got a short memory. Um, and you got to have that. I do like
Mhm.
Marquette, but I don't think they're going to get out of there. UCLA's got injuries. Uh, Kansas does nothing for me. Every time I see them, they lose. Um, I could see Arizona being a being there close, but they'd have to beat Alabama. So I'm going to take a pass on the Midwest because that's where A&M is. But I could see Alabama, Purdue, uh, and really looking at the West, since I don't like Kansas and UCLA's banged up, I could see UConn coming out of there in the with the fourth seed. But there are only a handful of teams that I would sit there and uh, lose sleep over if I were A&M. Unfortunately, one of those teams is Texas. So
Yeah,
that's gonna be a real good game, I think.
it almost seems like the Midwest, just kind of like the SEC, could eat itself, just like
Oh
maybe
yeah,
the top three teams right there could possibly be in the Final Four, but unfortunately they have to play each other to get
right.
there.
It's like you said, Xavier's got a higher seed. Kennesaw State's no pushover. Iowa State is hit or miss. Uh, Indiana, Indiana's a darn good four seed. Miami has proven they can play a little ball. Obviously, if U of H is banged up, they've got problems. So, and then A&M, if they get hot, uh, they've proven they can beat anybody. So, yeah, the Midwest really looks like murderer's row.
Hmm.
Uh, there's not much separating the one seed from the 10 seed. So, that's going to be a real interesting one. Um, Arkansas, whatever. I think Illinois will beat them. Um, that'll be interesting. They're in Des Moines too. So on Thursday, I'm going to go and just watch a bunch of games until A&M plays at midnight or whatever.
I
Um,
know the late game.
yeah, it's ridiculous. Gonzaga's in the West. That could be interesting. Um, Gonzaga TCU would be an interesting second round game. So I don't know. There's a lot out there. Um, but there are a few teams that really do stand out. Alabama's got to be the first one. Purdue's one. Uh, and then if UCLA were healthy, I'd be a little more on their bandwagon. But I like UConn. Uh, the Dukies are getting hot, which makes me sick. And Marquette could win the East. They could beat Purdue. So it's gonna be real interesting. And it's nice to have A&M back in it.
It is. It is. It will be exciting. I know Thursday night's a big night. I know you still have to pack. What an interesting way to describe the Midwest, the murderer's row. Even though, well, I won't say what I was about to say.
Well, no, they're not in the Midwest, so I can get away with that.
Okay.
I was thinking the 27 Yankees, not the 2023 Alabama basketball team.
Well, safe travels, Mark. We're super excited to follow you and see what all happens there on Thursday night. Stay warm and keep us all updated. Make sure you guys like this, share this, tune back in next week, as we will have more NCAA March Madness updates going on. All right. Thanks.
And spring
Oh,
practice
there we go. When does that start?
uh, on Monday.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, you're staying busy.
Yeah, I'll get home and hopefully get to sleep for a few hours and then turn around and get on the road to practice.
Well, God bless you, everybody. Aggie, certainly appreciates you.
Well, I appreciate everybody.